Hey y'all, want to welcome you back. Today we're going to do some finishing touches on this RM125 project. A couple of issues that I had with this bike particularly was the clutch. When you hold the clutch in, it just feels like you're not even pulling the clutch in. It's got plenty of tension on it, but it just continues to pull. I ended up putting a brand new clutch in this thing, friction and steels, and it's a little better, but it's still doing the same thing. I ended up draining the engine oil and I went with ATF, or automatic transmission fluid, something we used to run back in the day. Never had issues with it, and it made a difference. So like I can actually sit in gear holding the clutch in, and as long as I keep the RPMs up, it won't stall, but it's still trying to pull a little bit. What we're going to do is go ahead and just put a whole used basket and both pressure plates in this bike, get that fixed up. Wide open, she's breaking up a little bit, so she's a little bit rich on the top end. We're going to go ahead and drop the main jet down one. And lastly, we're going to relace this rear wheel. It is really bad. I can't get any of the spokes to loosen up so I can adjust them or tension them or torque them. So we're just going to chop them all off, relace it with some brand new Tusk spoke kit, and get it trued back up again. If any of that stuff interests you, and I'm sure it does, hang in there with me. I'll be right back. If you use a flathead screwdriver between your brake pads, gently push that piston back in, you'll have an easier time getting the wheel off and of course getting it back on again. Alright, so first thing to do is get this tire off this rim. Well, as it turns out, we've got a hell of a crack in this hoop. And it's not just a little bit, it goes all the way through to the other side. Well, I'm going to have to look into getting a hoop. We got to cut these off anyway, so let me go ahead and do that. It's all the way through. Unfortunately, I can't sneak the clutch basket out through here, so I have to take this entire side cover back off again. to save this coolant. I don't want to have to replace it again. I don't even have the pressure plate on, and I still can't turn. I can barely turn it. As soon as you put any tension on it, it locks these things up solid. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's very strange. A lot of times what happens when your clutch is dragging, if your free play is correct, usually going to be their steel plates are going to be warped, and that's just from like over slipping these things. A lot of times you'll pull them out and they'll be like blue or discolored. And what happens is they just slightly bend, they twist, and they'll have like a little bit of a warp to them when they're spinning like that. What happens is if your free play is correct and you squeeze this, there's not enough opening, I should say, or there's not going to be enough clearance. If all of these steels are warped, they're just going to drag. However, these are all brand new. So I'm not sure what's causing the problem in this one here. So as you can see, the inner pressure plate that attaches to the transmission spins nice and free. It's not dragging at all on the clutch basket. So it's something in this clutch disc. Now obviously your inner hub or your outer hub, if they're damaged or warped in any way, will also cause this kind of an issue. I was able to put the outer hub on my lathe and clean it up. Unfortunately, with my small lathe, I'm not able to do this inner hub, and I wonder if that's where my problem's going to be. But I'm not going to mess around with it. I'm just going to go ahead and put a whole known good used unit in it and be done with it. Alright, got a new used clutch. Things actually in pretty good shape. Does have some notching, which you would expect from a used dirt bike, but hopefully this fixes our problem. No issues there. Now looking at this, y'all might be thinking, why'd you take that power valve cover off? Obviously it didn't need to come off. Well, reason being is this felt to me like it was having a top end issue. Like the power valve was not kicking in. It wasn't coming up on Powerband, which you expect from a two-stroke to really hit that extreme wind out. And it was not doing that, so I thought for sure that this clip had fallen off, but alas, it had not. And at the beginning of this video, I said that we were going to get into rejetting this carburetor because it felt like it was a little bit rich. Well, I think the problem that, well, I'm pretty sure, 100% sure, actually, the problem that I'm having with this is this power valve is not actuating, because here's your governor right here. And everything seems to be fine with it. There's a bunch of ball bearings in there, and as this gets spun up fast by the crankshaft, it throws the ball bearings out, and this sleeve pushes in, and when it pushes in, it pushes against this collar and bearing, which turns this power valve up. Well, on the end of this thing, there's supposed to be a thrust washer, and when I put this together, I just totally missed that it was not there. This thrust washer is not listed as a separate part. I believe it's supposed to be on here. For whatever reason, the last person who went in here did not put it on. And again, I didn't notice it either. So what's happening is you have a good 1/8 of an inch, 3.5 millimeter gap here. And as much as this spins, it never spins enough to push in on this and spin this up. And this is going to be a problem twofold. One, you're not going to get your blazing power that you get when these things come up on rev. And secondly, because the exhaust valve is not opening up properly, it's going to feel like it's rich. That's the problem with this carburetor, because it's jetted properly. I jetted it according to Pro Circuit's jetting recommendations, which is 170 on the main, 55 on the pilot, and that should be perfect. But again, it just feels like it's breaking up, like it's too rich. This is going to definitely cause both of those problems. So instead of spending $180 on this valve or this governor, I just got a used one, and it does have the bearing on it, so it's on its way. All right, I got all this stuff in to go ahead and redo this rear wheel. We got our spoke kit. We've got a new hoop from Tusk. I've got some Permatex anti-seize compound, and we'll use this to put on the spoke nipples to keep them from seizing up again and having the same problem. So first thing I'm going to do is set this thing up. I like to use a couple of 2x4s. And we'll just center our hub. We can just go ahead and put our wheel sort of in the middle. So we have a bag of nipples, chrome spokes. Now in this particular kit here, all of the spokes are identical. They all have the same bend and they're the same length. Some of these wheels can have 2 different length spokes. Some of them can have 3 different length spokes, different bends to them. You really need to check your service manual to find out how they go. This one here is super simple. What we're going to do is start with, if you look down inside of here, you can see there are lower holes and higher holes. We're going to start with the lower holes and get all those threaded in. And once you start laying this out, you're going to see that the holes in the rim, one kind of points this way, one kind of points this way, one kind of points that way. They're all over the place, and they're going to correspond to this. So as we put it together, you'll start to see this coming together. Now, this stuff is messy as heck. We just want to put a little bit here on every one of these threads. Now this wheel is what's known as a 19 by 215 by 36. What that means is a 19-inch hoop, 2.15 inches width, and 36 spokes. So like I said, we're going to start by dropping these in on the inner holes. And once you get all the bottom spokes in, we can go ahead and get our top spokes in. And we're just going to lay them over the top of the bottom spokes. Now, next thing to do is we'll start with our bottom spoke, and we'll find our corresponding hole in the wheel. And get that started. Then every 4th spoke is going to be the same for your bottom spokes. Now, as you can see, our top spoke holes are on top of our bottom ones, and they're all laced in properly. What we'll do now is flip this rim over and do the exact same thing on the other side. There's our laced wheel. Now the wheel obviously has two holes, one for your valve stem and one for your bead lock. This kit came with a couple extra spokes, which is nice. I'll save those. Now on the end of these spokes, these particular ones have a spot for a Allen socket or Allen key to go in. And the trick is going to be just snugging all of these up so they're just about even. And then we're going to go ahead and true it. Just tightening these up till they're right to the edge of the threads. I may have to back them off or tighten them up more. I got to start somewhere. Now what I'm going to do is just go around and give them one full turn a piece. Getting better. We'll just keep going around until this thing is snug finally. Trick to this is just being even. It will save some time later when truing. Once we get close, I'll just finger tighten all of them. And of course, there may be a better way of doing this. This is just the way I do them. So at this point here, all my spokes are snugged up. All right, so next what I'm going to do is throw this thing up in my truing stand. This is a Harbor Freight Pittsburgh truing stand, fairly inexpensive. And what this allows me to do is spin this wheel and see if there's any run out or play. It's called truing the wheel. If you don't have one of these stands, you could always put the axle in the wheel, stick it in your vise, and you can kind of do it that way if you don't have one of these stands. So this is obviously going to be a little bit more accurate. You know, what you basically have is a couple of bearing rollers up at the top of your stand, and you have a metal shaft with a couple of collars. These collars are just held in place with a grub screw. And what they do is this is going to slide through. Now keep in mind, if your seal is too small for this to fit in here and contact the bearing, you'll have to remove your seals. This particular one, I don't have that issue. But I want to pull this in, pull it tight, and then tighten up this grub screw. Then we can throw this up in the stand. Now the two things we're going to be looking for on this wheel is a side-to-side movement and an up and down movement. And we adjust all of that using these spokes. Now that I've got it up in my stand, I'm just going to go around one more time. Just make sure they're all snugged up. I don't have any loose stragglers. It feels good. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and give this thing a spin. And it's pretty obvious that this thing does have a wobble back and forth. The up and down is not bad. So we tightened them fairly evenly. Now if we look at this little guide I have set up, it's not touching the wheel at all. So if I rotate this and we have any up and down at all, you should hear this thing scrape.
but what you do see is a side-to-side movement for sure. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that side-to-side. So first things first, let's get a point set up on the wheel. So when we rotate this, you can see that that's moving in and out. You want to see where it is closest to the wheel. And where it's closest to the wheel, we can tighten the spokes on the opposite side just slightly. And that will pull the wheel in that direction. We just go a little at a time. This takes a little time, a little trial and error. Remember, the thing you want to do is add tension away from where your issue is. So if your wheel is coming in close to your pin here, tighten the spoke opposite it. Just very lightly, spin it again. Just continue to work your way around until you have a true, or as close as you can get to a true wheel, this is pretty good. At this point now, what I'm going to do is just go around and give each one of these spokes a quarter turn, and then we're going to go ahead and throw the torque wrench on them. Rim all trued up. I got myself a new rim band. 1 inch by 19, and we'll go ahead and get this on. Obviously what you want to do is line your hole up with one of these holes for your valve stem. So if you don't happen to have a new one of these rim strips, you can use electrical tape or duct tape or something like that. I like the electrical tape more because you get the stretch. So we go to put our rim lock in. That is going to sit underneath the band. And that band will give it a little bit of elasticity, and the electrical tape will do the same thing. Let's go ahead and get this tire remounted, get this back on the bike. Alright, so this is the tire that came off. This is the tire that's going back on. No, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put that. I do have a brand new tire here, just kind of been hanging around, but I think this is going to be better suited for our KX250F project. Obviously that bike's worth more, and we'd like to make that one a little bit more nicer. Anyway, so although it doesn't make any sense, we're going to go ahead and put that used tire back on. We're going to blow this bike out for whatever we can get for it. So after ordering one of these that showed it had the bearing in the photo, it showed up without it, and they did not have it, so I had to order it again, and this time it has the bearing. Now the stupid part of this is, had I done any research whatsoever, I could have seen that this bearing here is sold separately and it's only 10 bucks. So I kind of killed myself on that one, but it's okay, we got it. Let's go put this in.
right, got it back together again. Rear wheel's tight, running true. I'm not going to mess with this carburetor. We're going to see if our power valve is operating properly now, and then we can do our tweaks later on. Also, I'm going to see if this clutch is still grabbing.
There we go. Power valve's kicking now.
Well, that's going to wrap this one up. We got our power valve issue fixed. This thing's a ripper. Rear wheel's all good to go now. My clutch is still just grabbing just a little bit, so maybe that'll break in time. I've never run into anything like this. If any of you guys have ever had an issue like this and you got some pointers for where I should look, I mean, obviously the entire clutch assembly is replaced, everything, unless we're still having an issue with the discs being incorrect or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of. As always, you all know that I appreciate each and every one of you. If you like the content that you see, or if I've helped you in any way, go ahead and give me a thumbs up on this video, leave me a comment, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, if you want to support the channel and you need a service manual, not only for your bike, but for your car or your refrigerator or whatever, go to emanualonline.com. Use my affiliate link, which I'll put down in the description. I'll also have a discount code over there for 22% off. Sometimes they offer 30. Go ahead and use that. As long as you use my link, it helps me. But buying a manual will help you and help them and help me. So again, appreciate you guys for watching. Stay tuned. We're in the midst of this KX250F build, running into some more issues. So you'll have to tune in next time to see where we are. Thanks again for watching.